Hugo, thanks very much for joining us on Zoom. For those who don't know, just tell me a little bit more about the company.
Certainly. Alpha Capital's a specialist fund manager. We invest in real assets with a focus on secure income. We manage just under £4 billion, the majority of it for pension funds, and we invest significantly in long lease property. My role there is I'm head of long income.
You've just recently done some research, Hugo, so maybe just share some of the highlights from that.
Certainly. Last year, we did some research looking at investor appetite for long lease property, and we saw significant expectation of growth from investors over the next 2 years, with more than 20% of investors expecting a marked increase in investments in long income property. So we did a survey across different European countries to see what was important to investors in considering investments in this sector. The core feedback we got was really around long-term security and long-term returns, as we would expect, as these investors are looking over a 20, 30, 40, 50-year time horizon. We did see some differences in how people looked at things. In particular, in Ireland, we saw a greater emphasis on distribution yield. And I think that reflects the fact that pension funds in Ireland are typically more mature than elsewhere. And so therefore, they've reached the point where the majority of their cash flows are now paying pensioners. So income is much more important than maybe for others.
And in terms of other major trends, for example, things like ESG, how much of that was beginning to come into the survey?
I think as with everything we look at, ESG is an increasingly important factor for investors. I think, for us, we're really looking very much at long-term sustainability. And that can be in two different ways. That can either be the market in which we're operating. So clearly, industries like healthcare with an aging population, there we can see that there's a demographic underpin. Also, we're looking at the buildings themselves because we're looking at making long-term investments. What's going to be the suitability of that building for its current use in 20, 30, 40, 50 years' time? Which then does put a big emphasis on making sure that we acquire buildings built to the highest standards.
Great. Thanks very much for joining us today and sharing your insights. Thank you, Hugo.
Thank you.